Hello, everyone. I'm Meredith, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. The person that you are about to meet, I had met and really hadn't seen her in many years, about, I want to say 15 years ago. She might correct me. I was doing a program at WLRN Art Street and went somewhere. We're going to be hearing all about it. And we met, and it's been all of these years. She was a wonderful person to interview, all kinds of enthusiasm and excitement about what she was doing, but we're going to hear from her today. So I want you to meet Thea Goldman. Thea has had many careers, different careers. She's been a model, a chef, or I should say a restaurateur, Thea, right? And now she's also a realtor, very well-known realtor. We're not really talking about any of these things today, maybe a little bit. What we're talking about is her current passion, which has been going on for quite a few years. So Thea, welcome to Conversations with Friends.
Thank you so much, Meredith. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk about your podcast as well. But take me back in time, and I want to say about 15, 20 years ago, right?
Yes.
When you first became involved, right, with the beginnings of WYNWOOD. It was the
Yes.
early days of WYNWOOD, and it was not too clear what it was going to be.
Maybe what we should do is give people listening some context, because they'll be thinking about this amazing place, WYNWOOD, that has 150 restaurants and, high rises and all kinds of activity. But when I fell in love with WYNWOOD, and there were quite a few other people who were there alongside and certainly before us, it was a desolate industrial warehouse district. And so that's what people need to think about when they think about WYNWOOD, not this incredibly vibrant place that we all know as WYNWOOD. So the idea that we were going to create some kind of arts and entertainment district out of an industrial warehouse district in the midst of the 2008 global economic crisis drove our need to work together. And that's really what I find most compelling, is how the community worked together.
So when you say the community came together, did they have a shared vision for WYNWOOD? Did they know what it was they were going to do? And it's now world famous, really.
Yeah. We didn't. We began with nothing. And the reason I like talking about this, and the reason I have a podcast that talks about this, is because it creates a roadmap for other people to be able to do it. We had to figure it out as we went along, and all of our backs were against the wall. And maybe it requires that kind of desperation in order for people to put the ego aside. It was an art district, a lot of different kinds of people and egos, and to think of the collective good for many reasons. And so we very methodically put a plan together in order for people to be able to work together. And so we knew in phase one that we had to have everybody in one room, because we had to see everybody and we had to be able to talk, and we had to be disciplined with a plan. And the first plan was writing that vision and everybody agreeing publicly to buy into that vision of an arts district.
Interesting. So what you're saying is, though, at the beginning, it was more just to develop an area of South Florida, which had a lot of problems at the time and everything. It was, just not thriving. It wasn't doing that well. And so was it more just to, get some restaurants in and, have some stores? And was that what it was about right from the beginning?
It was really to create an arts district for Miami in a very purposeful way. And so that was the vision that we had laid out and that we all agreed to. You need restaurants to ignite these neighborhoods, because you need to feed and water people. But more than that, you need to create some locus for a community. And if people are stuck behind, our gallery doors or factory doors or offices, you'll never have that locus. And so that's where the restaurants came in, and that's why they played that role. But it was very purposefully to create an arts district.
So that's how you were involved with more of, though you also had a restaurant there, right? At
Yes,
the
I
time.
opened the first restaurant in WYNWOOD, and I realized I felt very lonely the first few weeks and how incredibly daunting it was to be alone there. And so I knew instantly that I needed to make friends. And so
Hmm.
that meant meeting the people to the left of me, the people to the right of me, the people opposite me. And I did some door knocking and just said, hey, I'm over here. And other people were wandering in saying, we've seen you building. And collectively, with the neighbors, we created and founded the Wynwood Arts District Association, which I co-chaired with David Lombardi. And we created committees, and everybody donated funds and know-how and time. And it was a remarkable moment of a community being in sync.
So in a way, what was happening was the coming together of people to talk, and you were envisioning, but you didn't yet know what you were envisioning, right? I mean, exactly.
We were very clear
You
on
were.
what we had envisioned. What we
Mhm.
needed to do was create a very disciplined path to get there. So we knew that we had to have several committees. We had to create a clean environment. So I headed up the Clean Streets Committee, as well as
Mhm.
co-chairing the association for the neighborhood. It's now the Business Improvement District, but that's how we began it. Um, Susan Kelly was head of the marketing committee, and we all contributed to each one, but she headed that up. David Lombardi took on the security committee. We knew that we had to make it as safe as possible if we were going to invite people into art walks and see art galleries
Mhm.
in a very dark and very isolated industrial zone. Um, and so we had marketing, we had security, we had cleanliness, and that's what we did. And then we appealed to everybody in the neighborhood to contribute where they could.
Which is nice when you say mention the neighborhood, because there, often there's a lot of criticism when you go into an old neighborhood or a maybe less not thriving neighborhood, and
Well,
people start to feel as if you're coming in to take over, right?
so I think that's fascinating. And I want to be very clear that the neighborhoods that I focus on and the neighborhoods I've been involved in and the neighborhoods, where I talk to people who are working are either industrial neighborhoods or neighborhoods such as in Detroit that have been completely abandoned and need
Mm.
life to come into them. That was one episode with the Legacy City Group. So I focus on that kind of neighborhood. It's not WYNWOOD has a residential side, but the side we were focused on was a warehouse district
Mm.
with industrial zoning. There was no residence there.
So what would you say were the I don't like to ever be negative in an interview, especially, but what were you bring a group of people
Toughest,
together and you've got developers, you've
oh,
got arts people, and you
sure,
have all these different
sure.
people, the neighborhood.
Yes.
What
Well,
was
the toughest part,
challenge?
the toughest part was really persuading people to feel optimistic and persuading people to, even though we were all in crisis, we were in total crisis in either economically, in this situation we found ourselves, to take time out of that incredible stress of trying to keep their own businesses and lives afloat and donate time and resources to something other. And so instead of inviting by phone, I would walk the pavement at least once a week. And I approached WYNWOOD door by door by door.
Hmm.
And at the time, WYNWOOD only had cameras. There were no windows in these warehouses. And so you go from zipper factories to metal workshops to plumbing supply stores, as well as all the galleries and collections. But I felt that a call would have been very weak. It was a big idea and they needed to see my face. And so a lot of times I'd make the flyer and I would stand talking to them through the camera and I would tell them, open the door, it's going to be okay. Here's the flyer, come to the meeting. And it was remarkable because they trusted me. So I had to see it through and do well for them. And they came. And so that was really, really, I would have to say, a highlight of my life.
So you'd say in a way this was kind of, even though it might sound well, a basic thing. It was not a basic thing because it did, like you say, the highlight of your, of what you've been doing, that just something like that saying person to person, right? Going out.
That's what it was. It was person to person. And in all things, I mean, Mayor Diaz, who was our remarkable mayor at the time, we always joke that if there had been text messaging, we never would have got where we did because we all met constantly in person. We were all, it was all hands on deck. And so this remarkable support from the city, our commissioners showing up at every single meeting we had. We had reps from the city, reps from the neighborhood, businesses. And if businesses didn't show up, they got a visit from me the next day because they had to understand the importance of what Aristotle called fantasia, which is this collective imagination. And that we had to be in one room figuring this out in order to survive and create an arts district for Miami.
Beautifully said and beautifully done, as you've done over the years. So this was kind of life-changing for you.
Oh, in the most remarkable way, in the most remarkable way. It was really an incredible honor and a privilege to be in the position I was in. I was the local, innkeeper because I was the one running the restaurant that everybody came to. And so I realized it was my responsibility to do this and to create this community, sense of community. And so I took on that responsibility, but the idea that the neighbors and my colleagues and associates responded was a tremendous honor.
Just the bringing together of people, again, this is, I think we can't stress
it. Extremely powerful. Collective action is much, much more powerful. And if you're not in one room and you're not agreeing to one direction, you can't foster that and you can't harness that very, very powerful collective action, which I think that we need.
Is it more needed than ever, isn't it?
Yes.
Because today, I'm just trying to think, to do this today, it's hard to get people to come places, right? Of course, maybe if they're going to see an art show or they're going to eat or whatever people do, but it's hard to just bring people together. Everybody is always like, I'm busy, let's do it on Zoom, right? As we are. Yes. But not because we're too busy, but so just to bring people in a room and to connect
is incredibly powerful. I knew that we had a remarkable collective of people, and I knew that our differences, if we could get in sync, would make us tremendously powerful. So we had such a varied group of people in that neighborhood speaking multiple languages, coming from all over the world, and the stakeholders in that industrial part of WYNWOOD really had to accept the idea that we were all going to work together. And that was, I think, hurdle number one. When they began seeing that we were organized and determined and that we would achieve each goal. There were no light bulbs in the street. We drove around, we put every light bulb in the street. We had no one cleaning. So we created a foundation to hire people and create jobs to clean the streets. We went from being, a destroyed neighborhood after every art walk to being the cleanest neighborhood in Miami. Each point of pride was very exciting.
So each moment, like you say, was just another realization and to keep going with this whole idea. And was this group the Women of WYNWOOD that you founded?
So the Women of WYNWOOD was an extraordinary moment. For some reason, there were very many women stakeholders in WYNWOOD. They owned real estate, they owned businesses, they were curators, they were gallery owners, they were factory owners, generational owners where their parents had owned factories and they were running the businesses. And so it was just a funny thing I discovered standing in the restaurant, that I was surrounded by women in this neighborhood. And so it was really a natural to say, okay, the Women of WYNWOOD, let's get together. And we all put in $220. And Mark Sanoff showed up from the commission and said, here's a check for, I think it was $100,000, and he matched our funds. And we created jobs for women from the Lotus House shelter to be our ambassadors on the street and keep Wynwood clean and hand out maps and water and be like tour guides because it was so desolate. And the remarkable Glendina Roseborough, who was the first person I hired, is still there 15 years later. So if you ever see her on the streets, wave. She is the woman of Wynwood.
So empowering women that they're in a shelter because they had no power, or they were feeling that they had no power. And so, I mean, that's what I'm sure they were feeling until, they, of course, going to that homeless shelter, which is amazing.
I will tell you that
that was Lotus House.
Yeah. Yes, I know a lot of people use this term, and I know it's all meant with good intentions. I, controversially don't love the term empowering women, Meredith, because I think it indicates that we are lacking in power. You have to accept the premise that we are lacking in power. Glendina needed a job, and I would find it patronizing to think I empowered Glendina. I will tell you, in all reality, Glendina, if we're going to follow in the theme of empowerment, empowered me a hell of a lot more, because she came and made such an enormous success out of my idea, but she executed. And so forever, I get to sit back and discuss this amazing program that we all put money into, and time and energy. But it would have just been up in the ether if it hadn't been for Glendina. So really, my gratitude is to Glendina for making this such a success.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering if many people then have been really just inspired by just this one step that you took, but you took many steps, and just bringing people together and coming up with ideas. And it seems to me like you really did have a very, I don't want to say positive group of people, but a group of people that wanted to do something different. Did they want to do something?
Yes.
Not just another
we were desperate. Let me just say that, necessity is the mother of all invention. And we were desperate. The idea that in a catastrophic economic crisis, we were going to launch an arts and entertainment district, which fell pretty low on the rung of, important issues at the time that everybody was dealing with. We were determined. I think that was really the essence of it. And I am an eternal optimist. My partner and co-chair, David Lombardi, is a tremendous realist. And so I think we played off each other, that we focused on a target and we drove ourselves there collectively.
I feel like there could be a book coming with, what you're saying, with stories of people. So, which leads me, what people have been through, what they've experienced, and which leads me to, your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Well, my interest really lies with people who do this. And I have a sense that people are doing this all over the country and probably all over the world. And so more and more, our downtowns are suffering and pockets of cities are suffering because retail is down and there are so many vacancies, and the way that we work, office space, is vacant. And so we have these pockets of just hollow holes in cities. And so I focus on all kinds of people. If you look at the prism of neighborhood ignition, all the kinds of people, you need to collaborate with government, state and local. You need to collaborate with your neighbors to say, hey, I'm going to stay open till 7 p.m. tomorrow. Will you stay open too? And then we have some lights on the block. You need to promote yourself and have a map that people understand where you are. And there becomes a very clear road path and plan. And what's fascinating is everybody I talk to on this show, my show is called Thea's Neighborhood Magic, because I believe all these people are bringing magic to these neighborhoods. is that they all have commonalities. You speak to somebody in Detroit, you speak to somebody in downtown Miami, you speak to somebody in North Miami, and everybody has the same needs, and everybody has the same complexities and challenges. And so I'm very interested in this subject. And so my podcast focuses on talking to other people who are doing this.
And also you talk to people who have done this or have maybe not done exactly the same thing, but I'm thinking about the mayor of Miami.
Yes, so I think that was
mayor of Miami.
Yeah, Manny Diaz. I think that I needed to have Manny record his story and his role in this, because without Manny Diaz and his support, believing in an art district, Miami would not have had an art district at that moment in time. I'm completely sure of it. And then I couldn't mention Manny Diaz without mentioning John Timoney, who is the chief of police that Manny Diaz brought, who protected me and the neighborhood and believed in an arts district. And numerous other people who played a role, large and small, in Miami's art district. So it is about the collective.
I just really love hearing this, because I have been involved in things, not quite what you do, but where people come together. And again, I'm just comparing doing it all on Zoom and with meetings, or doing it when you can bring people together. And it's not always so easy because people are busy. They don't want to drive at night for a meeting, right? But the feeling I get about you is, it's very obvious to me, is you don't seem to give up. You have a lot of determination. Were you always like, or was this so life-changing that you became more determined?
No, I think that that's probably one of my strengths, is that I'm very determined, and I am extremely patient.
So patient meaning if it's not now, maybe later kind of thing, right?
I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. And you keep going and going,
so
knocking on more doors, as you said. Yeah. I want you to maybe mention Bernice Steinbaum too, the late.
Yes, Bernice, wonderful. She held down the corner of North Miami and 29th Street, truly a pioneer back in 2000 when she opened an amazing gallery. There were lots of people who were involved in this process. I'm not sure their stories are being told, but I'm certainly trying.
And you also, that I read, have done this or something similar, or worked on doing this in another neighborhood in South Florida.
Yes, so then I went into ALLAPATTAH, which is even deeper and darker into the engine of the city of Miami, and built a restaurant, because you need a restaurant to ignite a neighborhood. Nobody will go into a new neighborhood for a dry cleaner or a dentist. They go in for one thing, a good, interesting, compelling restaurant. And so it all begins with a restaurant. And so that was part of it. And I was part of development on 7th Avenue. And then there was a migration from WYNWOOD into ALLAPATTAH because it was the natural growth.
So it's just a matter of figuring out what's going to work, starting with something in a community, and getting the right people, though, right? You have to, if you have cynical people, there are people, and again, I don't want to be negative here, but there are people who are cynical who don't say, oh, it's not going to work kind of people. It's just not going to work.
Whatever you do, it's a reflex action for people to say, it's not going to work. And I think that you just need to accept it's a soundbite that 99,000 people are going to say to you, you're a fool, you're a dreamer, it's never going to work, it's never been done before, it's a ludicrous idea, whatever. I have a wavelength that I tune out. You can't process that. And you certainly can't argue with it. You just have to go and do the thing and be the thing, Meredith.
So I think that the first step is kind of having an idea, right?
You have to have a very clear
something you
idea.
would like to do, and not sure how you're going to do it.
No, you have to have a very clear
people, right?
End goal. Yes. So your strategy and your path to getting there may change along the way, but your end goal has to be very clear in your own head, or you can't persuade other people to come with you, because it really so much hinges on trust.
Sorry, we have a little kid here.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, handsome.
Well, I'm almost finished.
You're
So go ahead and I'll be back.
You're right. He can stay with us.
Oh, I know you have a son, but your son's older than this. This is my grandson.
Only a little bit, yeah.
Let's go.
Look,
we thought we had it all figured out, that I was going to have quiet time here, totally quiet time. But
I think
he wanted to see you. He wanted to see you.
He's very beautiful.
Oh.
And I will tell you that reminded me that my son, how old is your grandson?
He's 4, and your son is older though, right?
Yes, my son is 26, but when I was working in WYNWOOD, he was constantly by my side. He was about 8, and that reminds me, seeing your little one, that was really a driver for me as well, that I wanted to create something that he would grow up knowing and having fun with and feeling proud of. So children are great inspirations.
So maybe we need to have more communities where we involve the children in the meetings, right? We get them involved. And I have learned so much from hearing what you've had to say. And I'm just wondering, what's your next? I mean, I know you work full time in real estate as well, and you do all of these things. So do you have another vision right now? This is something
I would like to keep focusing on talking to people who are doing this. And I would like anybody who knows of somebody who is, slogging away, feeling as if they're in the dark, trying to push something forward in some neighborhood, whether it's an art gallery owner, a restaurant owner, an entrepreneur, somebody who is there, who's planted their flag in an unlikely place. I would like to talk to them.
So what we have to do is get that message out.
Yes, please.
On this program, and I know you say it on your podcast, and just more people should be able to show up with their ideas. And maybe you create something like that where I don't want to say coach people, but maybe you bring them together. I'm not telling you what to do, of course not, but more people.
I would love it if you did. You're a very wise woman, Meredith.
Thank you. More people are feeling frustrated today, and they are feeling hopeless. You talk to people just for a few minutes, and there's a feeling of, oh, not now, I can't do anything now, let me just try to survive kind of thing, or just get by. And so maybe we need to change that, kind of help people adjust that and realize you can do something at any time if you have the vision or the drive to do it.
Yes, and it's an interesting thing, and it's not an original idea to say that the increased methods of communication have made us lonelier. It's had this inverse effect, and so I think that people really just need to try to connect in person, the same way that we do for the arts organization that we're both a member of. It's a remarkable organization, fan, and we get to enjoy each other from there, all ideas and resources, and again, collective good.
Maybe there should be a whole article about this. Research shows that people that get together with a common idea or a vision are more successful than people that are doing it all on Zoom, or maybe not. We're not out to listen. We have to appreciate what we have. That we have. Look, I'm able to interview you, and so we can't always bring people together, but to try to incorporate that maybe into whatever it is you're doing. And I'm going to ask you one more question. Is Miami, people are complaining now a lot about Miami, and I think we've come so far. We're an amazing arts community. We have all of these people coming here, and they want to do something. They want to create something, but there's also the downside, which is so many people now, and that causes a lot of negativity, the feeling, it's so hard to get anywhere today. And so do you have any thoughts about what we might do as a community, as South Florida? Can you envision a world where maybe we can figure out some of these problems that we have right now?
Look, it's a lot to bite off. First of all, I would say that sharing our spectacular city with other people, when we've been so privileged to have it to ourselves, should be celebrated. It is a tremendously egalitarian society where you can go and have the same activity as the billionaire, which is enjoy the beach, park for free, and get into our ocean, and feel like a king. I love Miami for its very democratic society. Uh, that said, we are we have a lot of people here, and it's hard to get around. You are right, but Miami is remarkable for so many reasons because I've always thought Miami was really the microcosm of America before America becomes what it's going to be. We have environmental issues, we have overcrowding issues, we have a massive school district that needs attention. We have the largest immigrant population in the United States. We have very little public transportation, hence the congestion issues. And so I think it's fascinating. Miami is very young and is at the forefront of all the issues, good and bad, that this country has. And I trust in this city. And I trust that there are a lot of smart and creative entrepreneurs in this city who will move things forward in the right direction.
I love what you've just said because yes, we have all the problems and of a big city. I grew up on Miami Beach. We used to say on Miami Beach. We never said in Miami Beach. I guess because growing up, I don't know. That's what we said on Miami Beach. And as much as I think back of how great things were and that it was easy to get around and you felt safe and all of this, I wouldn't want to trade it. I wouldn't want to go back to that in Miami Beach. Maybe a few things, but I feel that this is such an alive city. It's such an interesting city where there are people of, like you say, all cultures, all religions, all everything, and they've all come together. And so we should maybe look at this as this is a powerful time to be here. And
yes, I also feel
what can we do?
that Miami's a joyful filled place because everybody has escaped something, whether it's something simple like the cold, the duress of living in the Northeast, fleeing a dictator, whether they've come, wet foot, dry foot, swimming out of the ocean, or if they've come by private plane, everyone is happy to be in Miami. And so I think that positivity and optimism and joy and love for a place will come up with some very creative solutions, and I'm fascinated to see where.
Yeah, I think we should end on that note. I know we've gone a little bit longer than usual, but this has been fascinating to me to hear you. I know you, and I totally respect you as everybody else that knows you does. And I've been very inspired by you. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about you and what you accomplished.
Meredith,
bringing people together.
Thank you so much for having me, Meredith.
Thank you. And thank Amar Murillo, who is our technical director, and thanking the Brahma Kumaris for this program that we get to have where we're really in search of people who are making a difference in South Florida.